at approximately 7:45 I heard a thud and I thought nothing of it and went back to sleep. And the next thing I can remember is my brother said to me, Claire, he said, you need to wake up. He said, there's a man in the street and he's dead.
He was a black guy, wearing a pair of sneakers, jeans, and just a t-shirt and a hoodie, laying face down. It was a shock, obviously, because we thought he'd been murdered then.
His body had twisted and his head had split open.
Hello, police emergency.
Hello, we've just been on to church down Portman Avenue in Mortlake, and we've come across what looks like a dead body.
Okay, whereabouts do you think this is?
It's outside number 22.
This gentleman looked to me like he'd been hit extremely hard, and I thought more likely this was a road traffic accident, but then it was a quiet residential street.
What was started out as a crime scene that looked like the guy had been murdered, I noticed they kept looking up at the sky.
The way it looked like he'd fallen from a very long way.
I think one of the uniformed officers said, well, you know this has happened before in the past. A stowaway fell from a flight onto a car park, I think it was Homebase in Richmond, and then so a few of us just all looked up and thought, hang on a minute, this guy has fallen from an aircraft.
What became clear was that aircraft had come from Angola. This man had stowed away in the undercarriage just before takeoff, and then as the plane flew over this street on approach to landing, that's the point at which the wheels were lowered and he fell. The question was why he took such an extraordinary risk, and of course who he was, because the only clues to his identity were a mobile phone and SIM card tucked inside the pocket of his trousers.
He had Angolan and Botswanan currency in his pocket. The phone was from a provider called Airtel, and I think another one from Movicell, so it was all a little bit conflicting, but certainly pointing to Africa.
I've been a coroner in West London for nearly 14 years and have dealt with 5 or 6 similar cases of stowaways falling from aircraft. We are under the flight path at Heathrow, so sadly I expect we may see more in the future.
The breakthrough was the data on the SIM card that was in his pocket. It included information about a text message, but the interesting thing was the text message was sent to a mobile phone that was registered in Switzerland. I tried calling the number and didn't hear anything back. And then out of the blue one day, one evening, that number appeared on my mobile phone as an incoming call.
The policeman on the phone told me that there was a stowaway and that this person, unknown person, had fallen from the plane in Richmond. At first I didn't really know what he was talking about.
Then all of a sudden, with her, the penny dropped, and there was a total change in her demeanour. She got very upset.
I told him, I know who it is, I know who it is. I cried on the phone to the policeman. I was in shock, complete shock.
Without any prompting, she said, oh, well, he's got a tattoo on his arm. It says a Z and a G.
The Z stood for Zuze, and that's how his mum used to call him, so it was Jose, but she used to call him Zuze. He was given a name, which was Aba. I guess in our alphabet, it's written with a G.
In 2010, she was living in South Africa with her then husband and her father.
When I lived in Cape Town, he was my gardener and also taking care of my home as well.
A man whose body was found in a street in Mortlake in West London after falling to the ground from the undercarriage of a plane has been identified. He was a Mozambican national called Jose Matata.
Joseph was a really nice man. He was a really good person, and he had a really soft manner about him. I miss him. He told me about his childhood and how difficult it had been. There were floods in his area in Mozambique. It seemed to be quite a big ordeal for him. He went to work in the mines in Mozambique. That was also very difficult for him. I asked him if he would like his life to be written down in a book one day, and he said he would love that because then people would know how hard it had been for him.
She remembered that in September he'd sent her some messages indicating he needed some help and he was thinking of travelling to Europe for a better life.
I really wish he would have called me just before taking the plane, so that I would have told him, don't go inside it.
We don't know how Jose Matada got into the airport in Luanda, but we do know that this is how he travelled to London, and he would have had to climb up as quickly as possible along this bit of metal and then into the wheel arch. He would have done this at night, so it would have been pretty dark. And I can't help wondering whether by this point he would have had second thoughts and realised that he'd made a terrible mistake. Now, the first major risk to stowaways comes after takeoff, because at that point the wheels retract up and fill most of this space. As the plane climbed, the temperature in here would have fallen to -60, the oxygen would have thinned, and then at some point over the next 8 hours or so, Jose would have lost consciousness. And then as the plane started coming in to land over London, these doors here would have opened, the wheels would have come back down. Jose, of course, still unconscious, would have been unable to hold on.
It's the sort of case that upsets everybody that comes into contact with it, I think, because you feel that they had such high hopes and they were obviously more optimistic than they really should have been.
I just thought, oh Joseph, what have you done? Why did you get into that plane? Why weren't you more patient? But we are Muslims, so we believe that when it's your time to die, it's your time to die.
The police here in London have been in touch with the authorities in Mozambique, but have been told that there's no trace of Jose Matada. That means that his family have not yet been found, and so he's been buried in this unmarked grave just a few miles from where he fell to earth. As far as we know, his family have no idea about what's happened to him. Perhaps they're still waiting for that call to say that he's safe, that he's found that better life that he was looking for.
The day of your death is written before you were born, so it's his resting place. I take comfort in thinking that his soul can find peace.